In the spring of 1453, a 21-year-old sultan named Mehmed II marched an army of 80,000 men to the gates of Constantinople. He brought with him a terrifying new technology, a massive bronze cannon over 27 feet long, designed specifically to shatter the seemingly impenetrable Theodosian walls. When those ancient Byzantine defenses finally crumbled on May 29th, the Ottomans secured a legendary capital and announced themselves at the forefront of global military power, commanding the height of explosive weaponry. Yet, fast forward a few centuries, and European diplomats were openly mocking this same superpower. They called it the sick man of Europe. By the mid-19th century, the empire was bleeding territory. During the Crimean War in 1854, the Ottoman state was so fragile that it relied entirely on geopolitical interventions from rivals like Britain, simply to defend its borders against Russia. How does an empire that practically invented modern gunpowder warfare rot from the inside out? Their eventual collapse is a harsh historical lesson about the fatal cost of stopping progress. To understand the fall, we have to look at the mechanisms that built them. In 13th century Anatolia, the region was a chaotic frontier. As older empires collapsed, a leader named Osman capitalized on the power vacuum, gathering a fierce band of cavalrymen to carve out a new state. They expanded their borders through sheer, ruthless pragmatism. When a massive earthquake shattered the walls of a Byzantine fort in Gallipoli in 1354, the Ottomans opportunistically walked right in, securing their very first permanent foothold in Europe. To hold these rapidly expanding territories, they developed a highly controversial system called the devshirme. They took Christian boys from conquered territories, converted them, and trained them with meticulous precision. The strongest were forged into the janissaries, a specialized infantry corps that became Europe's most feared military unit. By the 16th century, under Suleiman the Magnificent, the empire reached its zenith. It stretched from the Levant deep into Eastern Europe, defined by a massive treasury, explosive military dominance, and architectural achievements like the Hagia Sophia complex. New sultans were often confined to the cage, a system of palace isolation that prevented heirs from gaining military or political experience, leaving the actual levers of power to be fought over by vying palace officials. As the scientific revolution swept Europe, the empire prioritized social stability over technological adoption. For nearly 3 centuries, the state restricted the use of the printing press for Turkish or Arabic texts, effectively throttling the mass exchange of new ideas just as the powerful nations of the West were beginning to industrialize. This chart visualizes the sudden, exponential spike in global silver supply against the purchasing power of the Ottoman currency. When vast amounts of silver from the Spanish Americas flooded global trade routes, it triggered crippling inflation that devastated the Ottoman economy. A broke central government meant a weak military. As the state lost its grip, rebellions tore through Greece and the Balkans, successfully breaking those European provinces away from Ottoman control. Internally, the inequality was glaring. While ordinary citizens lived in deep poverty, the ruling elites maintained out-of-touch, lavish lifestyles. In Egypt, this wealth disparity triggered a fierce nationalist revolt led by an army officer named Ahmed Urabi. Fearing Urabi would disrupt access to trade routes, British forces intervened in 1882 to crush his rebellion. The Ottomans were too weak to stop them, and the British effectively seized control of the Suez Canal. By the summer of 1914, the empire was fracturing. As the First World War ignited, the Ottomans made a desperate gamble, allying with Germany and Austria-Hungary in a final bid to keep their remaining territory intact. Hoping for a quick knockout blow, British, Australian, and New Zealand forces launched a massive assault at Gallipoli. But they severely underestimated the defense. Instead of a swift victory, the campaign bogged down into a nightmarish ordeal of trench warfare, resulting in immense losses. The Ottoman troops fought fiercely for their homeland, forcing an Allied retreat. But this final flash of military tenacity could not fix the underlying rot. An outdated, stagnant bureaucracy simply could not sustain a multi-front modern war. sensing this vulnerability, the British actively incited the Arab revolt, working with local leaders to tear the empire's southern territories apart from the inside. Behind closed doors, their fate was already sealed. The British and French secretly drafted a pact to carve up the Ottoman Middle East. When the armistice dissolved the state in 1918, Western powers drew artificial borders right over the map, handing modern-day Syria and Lebanon to France, while securing Jordan, southern Iraq, and parts of the Levant for the British. Out of this total collapse, a military commander named Mustafa Kemal Ataturk refused to let his homeland disappear. He rallied the Turkish people, formally abolished the outdated sultanate, and founded the modern Republic of Turkey. The life cycle of the Ottoman Empire exposes a harsh historical reality. Reaching the height of global power requires radical innovation, but holding on to